My name is Ariel. I am from São Paulo University, and I'll be presenting the paper entitled Non-Point Pollution and Water Quality Modeling using unit loads, and a case study in the Hedberg Reservoir in São Paulo, Brazil. Well, it's well known that in urban areas, disorganized expansion, inefficiency of drainage infrastructure, poor public cleaning, and the dissenting use of the support capacity of the environment are causes of progressive degradation of the environmental conditions. Similar scenarios can be found in rural areas, as the excessive use of pesticides and natural vegetation removal also causes strong negative impacts. Much is known about punctual pollution, which are easy to quantify, predict, and localize. However, non-point pollution are as important, although it's not given so much importance. Research around the world show that diffuse pollution contributes to a considerable part of the total polluting load released in urban water bodies, reaching more than 30% of the total load. That being said, Novotny describes 5 conditions to characterize the source of diffuse pollution. The first is that the release of the pollutant load is directly related to rainfall, and pollutants are transported from extensive areas. Also, pollutant loads cannot be monitored from their point of origin, especially because their exact localization is frequently not known. Controlling pollution from diffuse sources must include actions on the pollutant generating area, rather than just in the location of their release, their effluent. And last, it's difficult to establish quality standards for non-pointing pollution, as the flow pollutant load correlation is almost impossible to establish. Well, that leads us to the main point of our work, that is the modeling of the non-point pollution. Modeling non-point pollution is the transformation of the rainfall into a flow associated with the mechanisms of deposition and accumulation of pollutants on the watershed and their transport to the streams. They are complex models, both from the point of view of their equation, as from the point of view of the data required. For example, the drainage network and the land use and occupation, and field sampling along rain events, among many others data that are required. Here on the figure on the right, we can see that modeling non-point pollution are frequently a combination of many methods for prediction their loads, like unit loads, event mean concentration, and the mathematical model. We will be talking more about each one of them in the next slides. Starting from the unit loads, usually they are estimated during dry periods and are separated for each land use and each constituent. They vary many orders from each one of the land use and from the constituents itself. Here on these 3 tables, we have the difference between many regions and showing that specifics of the area and specifics use of the area have to be shown in those studies. As in Korea, we have wet and dry paddy fields, and in the United States and in São Paulo, for example, we have different standards for urban areas. Plus, the event mean concentration. Now, it's the other method to estimate this diffuse load. Usually, it's found. We have them using automatic sampler, and it's a process to monitor, although it's not used so many times, especially here in Brazil. The event mean concentration is a simple flow-weighted average of constituent concentration. The EMC is obtained for an individual storm event, and it's defined as the total pollutant load divided by total runoff volume. We can see on table 4 that the event mean concentrations in a watershed in São Paulo show that for each land use, any of or some of the constituents may have different magnitudes of concentrations obtained. As we can see here, can you see my cursor? Maybe you can see that agriculture, for the land use agriculture, total phosphorus has the highest concentration obtained. As for the BOD, for example, the urban has the highest concentration obtained, as expected. And last but not least, we have the mathematical modeling for the non-point pollution. And it's a representation of the wash-off of the pollutants by the rainfall. And it states that the total mass transported by the surface flow is correlated to the flow due to the rainfall, constant of proportionality, and the drainage area, and the initial mass of the constituent available on the surface of the watershed that will be washed off the surface. Now, let's talk about the study area. We have here the Ipanema Basin. It's in this orange color. And the Hedberg Reservoir, here, this tiny blue area that is located in the state of São Paulo and next to Sorocaba City. And it's partially covered by a permanent preservation area and the Ipanema National Forest. And we have here the Ipanema River in black that is the main affluent of the Hedberg Reservoir. And by itself, it's the affluent of the Sorocaba River. And as we said, land use and occupation is of the highest importance on the study of non-point pollution. Here on the area, we have that almost 70% of the area is of pasture, agriculture, and a combination between both, the pasture or agriculture. Around 20% is the area of forest here on green, and only 10% of the area is of urban activities, the gray area here in the figure. To zoom out a little bit in our reservoir, the Hedberg Reservoir it has a volume of around 1.5 million cubic meters, and the average flow that is frequently observed is around 2 to 5 cubic meters per second. It gives us a detention period of in a range between 2 and 10 days. And we have 2 points of observation where we monitor constantly. We take data from quality and the other components and temperature. We have a meteorological station there that gives us radiation and other data for our studies. So let's talk about the model we used. We used a combination, a merge. We merged actually the 2 already known models, the SMAP and the CABC model. The SMAP model was developed in 1982 by Lopes, Braga, and Conejo. And the CABC model was developed in 2002 by the Hydraulic Technological Center. And we did a coupling of these three models: the hydrological, the load, and the water quality model. We can see here that we have a process in which the hydrological models feeds the load model, and itself is a setup for the water quality model. And for each one of them, we need data, observed data, field data, that for the hydrological model are rainfall, observed flow, and evaporation, among others. And the load model uses the land use, the unit load, and the event mean concentration. For the water quality model, you use the observed concentrations and the field data, and the simulated concentrations to compare and calibrate those models accordingly. As we said, we need observed data for our study. The red star here is our flow data. We have a station, that measures our flow results. And on the yellow dots, we have the rain gauges that give us the rainfall that we need to use for our hydrological model. It's important to state that the spatial distribution for the rain gauges, or if you're using radar data, is of the highest importance, because it's the spatial distribution that is really important on large catchments. If your catchment is small, it's not that important, but we have this really different data that shows that one rain gauges can make a difference, a big difference on the calibration of the hydrological model. Well, to give some results on the hydrological model obtained in SMAP and CABC, we have here the period from 2006, from March 2006 to April 2007. And the red line is the simulated flow, and the blue line is the monitored flow, the observed flow, and the orange line is the rainfall, that is the average rainfall on the catchment. The parameters obtained from this calibration are here on this left table, and those parameters provided us a good validation of the data here on the second figure, that we have the same simulated flow in red and monitored flow in blue and the rainfall in orange. And we can see that our performance of the model is really good. The error we obtained from this calibration is around 0.59%, and that is a good result, really good results that we can use those parameters to make new scenarios, predictions, and everything. As for the load model, we have here the BOD concentrations in the Hedberg Reservoir. We have in orange the simulated concentrations, and this gray area, we have a box plot of the observed data. We have data from about 1 year with a monthly frequency. And here on the blue axis are the maximum value observed on this observed data setup. And we can see that our simulated concentrations are in between the the quartiles of 25 and 75%, which give us a good result. We obviously had to change a lot of the unit loads and the EMC, the event mean concentrations. Usually the EMC is measured locally, but we did not have the automatic samplers to give us these results. So we had to calibrate those two. And here on the second figure, we have the same results for total phosphorus and for total nitrogen in yellow. We can see that the behavior of the curve, from those curves are really similar, and because it's mainly due to the rainfall, the average rainfall in the catchment. The coefficients obtained for the Ipanema Basin that arrive in the Hedberg Reservoir are those in these two tables. We have three main land uses that we summed to simplify this modeling. And we can see that the results, the coefficients respect the same behavior as the unit loads and event mean concentrations observed in other study sites. As the BOD has the most impact on general urban, the total phosphorus and nitrogen have the highest values for the agriculture, and they're in advance. To conclude, it is clear that the automatic sampler data from the rain events are needed for the better assessment of the event mean concentration and to corroborate the behavior from the known point pollution concentrations presented. In addition, a larger set of the quality data observed in dry periods is always recommended, so that the series of points given by the box plot represents reality. The unit loads and the EMC obtained, despite being exclusive for the watershed of the study, have consistent values showed in literature in accordance to their respective land use and occupation. Finally, the results obtained in this case study showed that unit loads method is a useful tool to represent diffuse pollution buildup when comparing to modeling outputs. We'd like to thank CAPS for finishing this study and MoMA project for the support and the data always. These are
It looks like we locked up.
the reference we used. And thank you very much.